Before anything else, hit the like button now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because that really helps the content reach more people, and make sure you don't miss any important updates on what's happening in the NBA at this decisive point of the season. Now, pay attention, because what's happening with Jonathan Kuminga isn't just another routine trade request. This is a total breakdown, a quiet collapse that's been building for months inside the Golden State Warriors and finally blew up the very first second the league allowed it. 15th January 2026. That date was circled on the calendar for pretty much every NBA executive. Not because of a big game, not because of a special event, but because it was the first day Jonathan Kuminga was legally allowed to be traded after signing that 2-year contract in the offseason. And the moment the clock turned over, there was no hesitation, no middle ground talks, no attempt to patch things up. Kuminga immediately told the franchise he wanted out. It wasn't a polite request. It wasn't a suggestion open to dialogue. It was a direct stance. He wants to be traded. Full stop. And when you look at the context, it's hard to blame the player. Jonathan Kuminga hasn't stepped on the floor for 13 straight games. We're not talking about reduced minutes or a smaller role. We're talking DNP after DNP, while he's still earning more than $22 million a season. For any young athlete, that's devastating. For a 23-year-old still trying to establish himself as a real piece in this league, it's basically a sentence. Over the last few weeks, the signal was obvious to anyone paying close attention. In 17 recent games, Kuminga played only once. 16 times he stayed on the bench without even being called. There's no injury behind this. There's no physical rehab underway. What there is a broken relationship, a divorce that was simply waiting for the legal date to be made official. Inside the organization, the read is nearly unanimous. Moving Kuminga before the trade deadline is the best path for everyone. The player wants out. The coach isn't counting on him. The veterans already understand there's no going back. It's rare to see a split this mutually accepted in the NBA, even if it's full of noise behind the scenes. At the start of the season, it was completely different. Kuminga began as a starter in the first games, got public praise, was treated like a locked-in rotation piece. The message was clear. This is his year. But it only took a few weeks for everything to crumble. The performances wobbled, the confidence dipped, the space shrank, and before he realized it, he was completely out of the plan. And here's an important detail a lot of people ignored at the time. The contract Kuminga signed wasn't a simple short-term deal. It was structured strategically. Team option in year 2, high enough to match salary in trades, flexible enough to become a trade chip. Inside the locker room, the feeling that stuck with the player was that he'd been pushed into terms that didn't really protect him. That alone would be enough to create resentment. But the situation got far heavier when internal accusations leaked to the press. On the 2nd January 2026, Golden State were set to face the Oklahoma City Thunder, the reigning champions. In that specific game, major names were expected to sit. It was the perfect chance for Kuminga to finally get minutes, rhythm, and a real role. The head coach himself confirmed before tip-off that Kuminga would play. But about an hour before the game, Kuminga's name suddenly appeared on the injury report. Lower back soreness. Out. The reaction was instant. Around the league, executives raised eyebrows. Inside the Warriors themselves, the frustration was even stronger. Suspicions started to spread that the injury simply wasn't real. The read from some people in the organization was blunt. The player may have avoided stepping on the floor so he wouldn't risk damaging his market value even further in a situation where he clearly didn't have the coach's trust. And the heaviest part wasn't even that. It was hearing someone from the roster admit, anonymously, that they'd do the exact same thing. Basically saying it wasn't worth risking your body for a team that had already made it clear it didn't believe in you anymore. That one line says everything. The Warriors got run off the floor that night, losing by over 30 points. The irritation was visible all the way up the franchise ladder. The mood behind the scenes finally turned toxic. What used to be an uncomfortable situation became an open rupture. And just when you think the story can't get more complicated, a revelation surfaces that changes how all of this is interpreted. Internal reports indicate that back in the 2021 draft, selecting Jonathan Kuminga was never a complete consensus. There was a clear split inside the franchise. While part of the front office saw Kuminga as an elite athlete with star potential, the coach preferred a different name, Franz Wagner. Wagner went one pick later, taken by Orlando. And since then, the two paths have gone in completely opposite directions. One got minutes, responsibility, and trust from day one. The other lived between flashes, pressure, and constant role changes. That doesn't mean Kuminga lacks talent. He's already shown, including in big moments, that he can produce at a high level. When he had space in the playoffs, he delivered. The problem was never purely technical. It was structural. It was fit. It was vision. And now, with the relationship worn down to the limit, the question isn't whether he's leaving. It's where. Several teams are monitoring the situation closely. Some have had long-standing interest. Others see a rare chance to buy a young talent at the lowest point of his market value. There's one specific scenario that stands out, especially because of the connection to a new, dominant star in the league. But that opens a completely new chapter in this saga. From here on, it's about possible destinations, real negotiations, packages being discussed, and the risks on each side. The moment the trade request became public, Golden State's phone didn't stop. Not because there was a neat queue of can't-miss offers, but because multiple franchises started asking the same basic question: what's the real price of Jonathan Kuminga right now? And the answer isn't simple. His value has never been lower, but the potential still seduces decision-makers. We're talking about a 23-year-old wing, elite physical tools, rare burst, and proof in big moments that he can swing games when he has confidence and space. The issue is, nobody wants to pay a star price for a player coming off such an exposed internal conflict. In that context, one name started gaining momentum almost inevitably: the Los Angeles Lakers. The logic is simple. The Lakers completely changed their timeline after bringing in Luka Doncic. Now everything revolves around putting athletic, young, complementary pieces around one of the greatest playmakers of the modern era. And within that vision, Jonathan Kuminga makes sense. The interest didn't come out of nowhere. He's been watched for months. The idea is clear. In a system where Luka dominates creation, Kuminga wouldn't have to carry the burden of making plays for others. He could do exactly what he does best: attack space, cut with speed, finish in transition, and use his strength against smaller defenders. Something he never managed to do consistently in Golden State. Talks haven't reached the point of anything formal, but the interest is real. And more important than that, there's a financially plausible path for a deal to happen. One name mentioned often in that context is Rui Hachimura. An expiring contract, a compatible salary, and a profile that could fit the Warriors' rotation better than people realize. Hachimura is efficient, shoots well from outside, doesn't need the ball, and could contribute immediately alongside veterans still trying to stay competitive. Depending on the construction, complementary young players and a draft pick could be added to the package. None of this is final, but strategically, it makes sense for both sides. The Lakers would bet on raw upside. The Warriors would gain flexibility and avoid long-term commitments. But Los Angeles isn't the only possible destination. In fact, there's a team that's been circling Jonathan Kuminga since last offseason, and it might be the most natural fit if we're talking about a defined role: Sacramento. The Kings-Kuminga connection predates this entire explosion. When he was still a restricted free agent, there were serious conversations. The interest was real on both sides. Sacramento saw him as someone who could grow with more freedom, while Kuminga saw an environment where he could finally have a clear role. The problem was always the price. Back then, Golden State were asking for a lot: a first-round pick, young assets, flexibility. Now, the situation has changed, but not as much as some people think. Even with his market value dropping, the Warriors don't want to give him away for nothing. There's a minimum line they won't cross. Sacramento, meanwhile, are in a complicated moment. Poor form, internal pressure, a need to change something. That can help negotiations because when a team is in crisis, the tolerance for risk goes up. Betting on Kuminga could be seen as bold, but necessary. The biggest obstacle is contracts. Taking on long-term money isn't a priority for the Warriors, who are already thinking about reshaping the roster over the next few years. So any trade with Sacramento would require creativity, possibly even a third team to reroute salaries. And then there's the most unlikely scenario, but not the least interesting one: Dallas. The Mavericks have entered a completely different mode after recent changes. With a new timeline and a full focus on development, it makes sense to look at young players who haven't hit their ceiling yet. Kuminga fits that logic perfectly. In Dallas, he wouldn't arrive as a quiet supporting piece. He'd arrive as someone to be tested, explored, placed in real growth situations. The pressure for immediate results is lower, and that might be exactly what he needs to reset his career. There are trade concepts involving pieces that meet clear needs on both sides. Golden State need physical presence in the paint. Dallas have assets in that area. Dallas need explosive wings with upside. Golden State have Kuminga. It's not easy, but it's plausible. The key is understanding what the Warriors actually want, and all signs point to this. Their priority isn't maximizing immediate on-court return, but maintaining flexibility. Expiring contracts, assets that don't lock up the future, and the ability to breathe financially over the next few years. That's why it's not impossible the franchise holds Kuminga until the trade deadline if no offer feels right. Even with all the damage, that might still be the best move from a cold asset management perspective. What's interesting is that even in the middle of all this chaos, there's still internal support. Some veterans remain close with Kuminga and make a point of showing that publicly. The message is clear. The problem isn't personal, it's structural. Basketball is context, opportunity, and trust. Without that, even huge talent gets lost. And that's exactly why this story is so symbolic. Jonathan Kuminga isn't the first young player to get stuck in an environment that prioritizes immediate wins. And he won't be the last. The difference is now it's all exposed, documented, and happening right in front of us. The trade request is official. The mood in Golden State feels like closure. The interested teams are watching. And the next few weeks will decide whether Kuminga finally gets to rewrite his trajectory, or whether this chapter becomes the start of a career filled with question marks. Now I want to hear from you. Where do you think Jonathan Kuminga is going? Lakers, Kings, Mavericks, or a surprise destination? Drop your comment below, debate it down there, leave a like if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates on this NBA saga that's only just getting started. Kai returned to the court with an impressive performance, reaffirming his status as one of the most promising talents in Asian basketball. In a recent game against Kyoto, he delivered a spectacular performance, scoring 20 points, grabbing 4 rebounds, and dishing out 3 assists. These numbers not only stand out in the stats, but also showcase the constant evolution of a player who becomes more complete with each game. From the first minute, it was clear he was ready to shine. Combining height, agility, and technical skills, he dominated the paint, leaving opposing defenders without answers. His mid-range shots were sharp, a reflection of the continuous effort he dedicates to improving his game. Moreover, his court vision became evident in decisive moments, distributing assists and connecting his teammates in important plays. When the game reached its most tense moments, Kai took responsibility, showing leadership and composure. In the third quarter, he made a memorable play by dribbling past 2 defenders, converting a crucial basket, and hitting the free throw after being fouled. Plays like this not only excite the crowd, but also highlight his ability to perform under pressure, a key trait for any player with ambitions of reaching the NBA. His fans have plenty of reasons to be excited. Kai is about to hit historic milestones in the B-League. With just 76 points remaining to reach 1,000 career points, he is approaching a select group of players known for their offensive consistency. Additionally, he has already surpassed 500 rebounds, establishing himself as a dominant presence in the paint on both offense and defense. He not only protects the painted area with authority, but also creates crucial second-chance opportunities for his team. Another important achievement is nearing. He is just 4 assists away from reaching 100 assists in the league. This reinforces his ability to create opportunities and involve his teammates in strategic plays. These numbers directly reflect the impact Kai brings to the court. His combination of imposing physicality, technical ability, and tactical intelligence makes him one of the most complete players in the league. Every point, rebound, and assist brings him closer not only to records but also to the dream of playing in the NBA. His performance has caught the attention of analysts and commentators who already consider him a player capable of raising the competitive level of the B-League. Comparisons with great past big men are starting to emerge, highlighting his potential to leave a legacy in international basketball. But for Kai, more than statistics or records, the important thing is to keep evolving and making his mark in every game. Kai Sotto's future has been one of the most debated topics among fans and experts, and one of the most mentioned destinations for him in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. The franchise's fans have already started a campaign on social media asking for his signing, believing he could be the missing piece to strengthen the team. The Warriors are known for their fast and dynamic style of play, with an emphasis on long-distance shooting and constant movement. However, one of the team's weak points has been the lack of a dominant presence in the paint, someone who can protect the defensive area, grab rebounds, and bring balance to the team. Kai fits exactly that profile. His impressive height and game-reading ability are characteristics that could transform the Warriors' performance. Moreover, his international experience, facing different styles of basketball around the world, makes him an interesting prospect for a franchise looking to refresh its roster without sacrificing competitiveness. For the Warriors, signing Kai would represent a low-risk, high-potential move. He has already demonstrated his ability to contribute both defensively and offensively, being an efficient finisher near the basket and constantly improving his mid-range shot. Combining this with his competitive mindset and dedication to improvement, he would fit well into the team's system. The fans are excited about this possibility, knowing that players with Kai's skill set and potential are rare. For many, he could be exactly what the team needs to get back to competing for the top spot in the NBA. If you like the content, leave a like to support the channel and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss anything about the Warriors. Thanks, and see you in the next video.